Hi, this is Steve Gillmor. Welcome to the Gillmor Gang. We've got an international show today, or at least we will once Mike Arrington arrives at the TechCrunch offices in Paris. Closer to home, we've got, starting to my immediate right, in New York, Dan Farber. Welcome, Dan.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. How's CBS News Online going?
Is that okay?
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me just, what is that, 4?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to mute him. Sorry, we'll pick that up again. How's CBS Online doing?
It's doing fine. There's plenty of news. That's what we like.
So, what is topmost on your news plate right now?
Well, you know, it's always Tiger, 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 and then there's Afghanistan and jobs.
Yeah, so there's no jobs, and I guess there have been lots of jobs for Tiger, right?
I'm not touching that.
I hope not, God. And the chuckle that we heard was from Robert Scoble. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, what's up?
I don't know. You tell me. What's behind you these days, as it were?
Google announced new DNS server, which makes your internet surfing faster and turns over even more data to the Google Meister.
So we care about that. Well, we'll ask Kevin Marks and Doc Searls what they think about that. Welcome, gentlemen. Oh,
Thinking about?
no, say it again.
DNS server.
I don't have a position on that.
You don't?
I'm sure it's a good thing. It's good enough anyway, I'm sure.
So it's kind of
This
it
Google
kind of
Play Open
sucks,
DNS,
but it's
is that what's
okay.
going on?
Yeah.
They basically got 8.8.8.8.8 will serve you DNS over Google, and the goal is for them to make it faster. That's what they're selling.
Oh, okay, I see. Faster DNS.
All right,
Faster DNS is good. I want that.
So Kevin, give me the answer you would have given when you were working for Google.
This is designed to make the internet faster for users. That will be the Google answer.
And that's good for you, right? And that's good for what's good for us is good for Google.
What's good for Google is, well, Google really believes in latency, in low latency. So if they can speed up anything to do with the internet, that makes people search more and gets them more ads. So that's the underlying motivation. The other piece is that it means that you can use DNS in places where other people are otherwise denying it to you. If you can route, there's sort of different layers of the routing issue. This means that if you go to a place and they're not giving you proper name resolution, you can put 8.8.8.8 in and have it work better.
So by routing, you mean routing, right?
Yes.
I like negative latency, so it anticipates what you want. That's
That was the thing we discovered yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the.
I like that negative latency. I think we should call the show that.
it's minus 4 milliseconds.
This is like beyond real time. This is like doing what you expect, doing what you wanted, rather than what you asked.
pre-real. It comes before real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like pre-existence.
It's pre-RSS, in other words. Ooh, that's the first reference to RSS. This is going to be. Dave is complaining about how yesterday's Supernova didn't mention RSS at all, so I'm going to try and mention it as much as possible.
RSS was heard.
Brett mentioned
I
RSS.
heard it.
Dave tweeted it. He didn't even notice they got mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I heard it, but that doesn't mean that he's not complaining about it, which he is.
Yeah.
So he can't complain about it here. I'm going to say that RSS is dead repeatedly.
We could do that in some kind of sign language, but it's like, oops,
Sorry?
we went away. You know,
What happened?
RSS is in fact alive. Like,
Okay, excellent. So
RSS sign, I think.
So I'd like to start, and when Arrington shows up, he may or may not have an opinion about this, but I'd like to talk about what I consider to be today's big news, which is actually not today's news. It's been being talked about for about 2 weeks now, which is the gobbling of NBC by Comcast.
yeah.
And I want to start with Dan Farber in New York, since I would like to hear your thoughts on what the implications are for CBS and their digital strategy as well.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't speak for CBS's strategy.
No, this is about opinions, and you do have some, right?
Opinions. I do have a few. Well, I think for Comcast, it's a great little marriage because they get this huge mainstream fount of content and video, the Olympics, sports, and I think Comcast has about 24 million subscribers. They have telephone people, so mixing in content, is really a good play longer term. Although, there's always danger in a merger like this because you have different cultures, but yeah, you can see all kinds of new bundles that they can come up with and integrate it into their digital services. So,
Dan, pull your headset a little bit away from your mouth. Just
okay.
Not that. That's too far.
How about right there?
That's perfect. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying?
I think still a question of what Comcast is going to do with all those properties, including Univision, and there's that piece of Hulu. So they have a lot of parts now. The question is, how do they put those parts together and make a real business out of it?
Robert Scoble, what are your thoughts?
I don't have any on this deal.
You don't care?
Unfortunately. Not on my radar screen right now.
So what's on your radar screen? Explain what's on your radar screen, and I'll explain why it's connected to this deal.
The new Bing maps. I'm checking those out. That's pretty interesting. They put PhotoSense on top of the maps, which is the first time I've seen really good end user data or my stuff on top of maps, which is pretty cool.
And then there's Silverlight, which you were demonstrating before.
Yeah, I have lots of hats today. This is going to be the show of many hats. So there's my Silverlight hat.
Okay, well, Silverlight is how we're going to get back to NBC and Comcast.
All right, I'll wear my Silverlight hat.
So keep listening. Doc Searls, what's your thought on the Comcast deal?
Well, my concern about it is that is that Comcast could start playing keep away from other cable companies and satellite distribution and stuff like that. I'm told that they did something like that in Philadelphia. If you want to get Philadelphia sports, you can only get it on Comcast because Comcast has done exclusive deals with various Philadelphia sports teams. So if you happen to have DirecTV or Dish or something other than Comcast, you can't get them. So, probably not going to want to do too much of that because NBC is so broad and so mainstream. It'd be kind of counterproductive to keep them away from, to keep that content away from other distribution mechanisms. But obviously, games can be played there, and I'm concerned about that. A bigger concern that I have is that, Comcast might want to go to, say, Cisco and say, okay, I want you to make us a router, this is sitting next to Kevin here, that will favor our content in the middle of the backbone somewhere or in some stretch of mileage and say, okay, we're going to pay you X billion dollars to make us give us ways to privilege our content over somebody else's in distribution, and rationalize it by saying, well, there's so much demand for it. Of course, this needs to get on the fast lane. So I'm a little concerned about that kind of gaming going on.
Kevin, you share a concern about that?
There's a temptation there. That's the thing. So I'd hope they wouldn't be foolish enough to do that because presumably people would hunt them down and stop them. But yeah, I work for BT, which comes from a country where these layers are strictly separated, and that means that. When we design services, we design them so the layers are separated. If you don't have that, there is a huge temptation to do stuff specially for yourself and not validate it for others. So there's a potential problem there. I would hope that they wouldn't be foolish enough to do that, but they may just be saying, "Oh, look, there's value at this layer." It may just be, an AOL Time Warner type play.
Well, I mean, we saw how well that went for AOL and Time Warner. So why are people so concerned? My brother wrote a long, impassioned post, excuse me, about that this was basically a terrible thing, and that it was at the same time the part that I agreed with him about was that it's a disruptive opportunity to confront these kinds of issues and perhaps remake them as we move into a composite digital world. Hey, Doc, would you sneak back into the shot? Thank you.
I'm just reaching for something over in a bag, but I'll see it. My arms aren't long enough. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, you weren't on camera.
I need to be medicated.
Trying to give you a hard time. I know it's this. real-time thing is very
Yeah.
emotionally disturbing.
Yes.
So
Especially since
you
it
know,
was- yeah.
I guess what I was trying to say is that I don't think that people take into account the inexorable logic and power of the marketplace in redefining what people think of as monopolies. I mean, you know, a few years ago we thought that Bill Gates was just, you know, trying to come up with something for his antitrust deposition when he said that there was somebody who was going to come along and disrupt what they were doing, and that was about 10 minutes before Google did exactly that. So, you know, I don't know why we are afraid of Brian Roberts, you know, dominating the television business. I mean, to my perspective, the television business needs dominating. Do you agree with that, Dan Farber?
Well, what do you mean by dominating?
Well, we need there. We're in the midst of a transition to the internet as being the basic fundamental throughput for information, and there are going to be some changes made, and people are going to have to readjust their strategies to be able to account for it. I mean, you're the editor-in-chief of CBS News Online. I think you probably spend a great deal of time when you're not chasing stories trying to figure out what to do to be able to, you know, leverage the opportunity that you have here. Isn't that what you do?
Oh, I think that's accurately put. But you know, if you look at what Comcast, you have these two behemoths getting together, which is typically what we've seen in the past, which is these mergers and consolidations of big companies and consolidation of power. So if you have Comcast with their 24 million subscribers and their triple plays and Fancast and you know, having a substantial foothold on the internet, and then you add in all the content, which you would call the high cost content, but also the high revenue content that comes from NBC or Bravo or Sci-Fi or Univision. You know, it's two big entities getting together to see if they can make a lot more money. And then on the other end of it, you have the other end of the internet, which is the longer tail of the internet. And then there's a big gap in between at this point. So I think it's a question of whether the model for television as it exists today and that kind of high-cost programming will, continue to work out into the future, which is 10, 20 years out, in terms of especially their cost model.
But you've got things like YouTube announcing a streaming product, which of course is going to have some impact on for example, Ustream, which we use to carry this show when we record live. But that's like a new television network that's going to spring up.
Well, it's not a new television network necessarily, because Comcast can do the same thing as well. And Hulu does that, and they've got a chunk of Hulu. I think the interesting thing for Comcast is just how much that they lean on NBC or favorite, and they also have they also end up with MSNBC. And so what's the relationship between Microsoft and NBC and Comcast now?
Well, I mean, people seem to have absorbed that concern over the years since Microsoft has sort of collapsed as a as the company to be feared, and Google has replaced it.
But I think for NBC and for Comcast, there's huge potential in creating new products and for video on demand, that people aren't doing appointment viewing. Comcast has a ton of infrastructure for dealing with generating revenue from television, from the internet, from cable. So they're in a very good position to take a content company and perhaps be able to run it with less friction than what GE could do with it.
Robert Scoble, you've been playing show and tell here. But what
I
was
have
the
my,
purpose
I have
of
my two
showing...
hats that are fighting the Silverlight
Yeah.
and the Google hat.
All right, good. All right, I like that. So you've got the battle for the web operating system going on simultaneously, which is, I think, where this crosses over. Doc Searls, are you afraid of Silverlight the way that my brother is afraid of Comcast?
I have no fear of Silverlight. I don't even know. I've paid very little attention to it. I know it doesn't work on some things. That's what I know about Silverlight.
Yeah, it doesn't work on most mobile phones, and that's when I
Yeah.
talked to the Bing team yesterday, and they were showing off all their new Silverlight stuff, which is very impressive. You should see the street level view. You walk down, and it's very fluid and very cool. It does have some major advantages over the web, right? It's really the web versus custom environments like Adobe Air and Silverlight, but Silverlight's not on my mobile phone. And I said, I do most of my mapping on my mobile phone. So when are you going to deliver Silverlight onto a mobile phone that has any, attraction? And all four execs looked at each other and said, "We can't tell you that."
Right. Well,
So
it's going to be around Mix in March of next year. Okay. Here, this is Arrington coming in. Can you
decline this.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him.
Good. All right. We're just trying to bring Mike Arrington in.
By the way, Steve, are you seeing the video fluid? Because the video I'm getting back from you is like one frame every 10 seconds.
Well, that's we're doing that on purpose.
Okay. It's the internet.
That's my stock answer.
Google
to
DNS and
anything
Comcast
that-
perhaps throttling us or something.
Whatever's
I should
wrong,
have switched
I'm
to
doing
Google
it on purpose.
DNS. I knew it.
You were saying, Kevin?
About which? About Comcast or about
You weren't
Silverlight?
saying anything. That's why it was a joke. Go ahead.
So, I think the Silverlight thing, it's yet another plugin, and yeah, it creates a barrier to using that tool. I had Barney Pell show it off in the search session that I ran here yesterday, and it's interesting and it does some nice pieces. But as Robert says, the cost of it is you've got to download this plugin and install it. And we were sitting there on the stage just before going, oh god, we've got to install a plugin. It creates a barrier, and that's is the trade-off worth it, or is there a way to do some of this stuff with the web standards? The original surprise of Google Maps was how much they managed to do with existing web stuff. That became the sort of marker for the state of the art in JavaScript and dynamic HTML.
Good.
Sorry.
I think what they did was impressive. I actually found the interface fairly confusing. It was pretty. It did some interesting things, but it had this sort of weird warping feel to it. It was sort of in the uncanny valley of 3D. As you went from the 2D map to the 3D map, it was like San Francisco melted and did strange stuff as you were looking at it.
It did feel like an acid trip from the 60s.
Yeah, it's in this sort of weird,
Or so I've heard.
weird gap between reality and unreality. And I wasn't sure it was actually good information design on the map in the various views I saw. But that may just be because I hadn't spent enough time getting to understand which view was which. Certainly, it's an impressive piece of work. It's interesting what they've done.
Well, they announced at the PDC that Silverlight adoption was now around 47% of machines. And I think that the biggest impact of this Bing stuff is that it's going to probably push that to 50, 55 in fairly short order.
Do you think Bing is more important, or is it Windows 7 adoption? Because Windows 7 adoption is off the roof. I mean, they're seeing more adoption than they ever expected to see.
In terms of what?
Of Windows 7, which comes with the Silverlight plugin pretty much built in.
Right. Well,
Maybe that's counting each other, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
There's some double counting there. If Windows 7 adoption is taking off, they're counting that as Silverlight installs, and they're counting it as a percentage of places you can install Silverlight, not including the percentage of devices that can't run it, like all the phones that we're carrying around now to do this.
well, they started with the Olympics, and they're going to accelerate it with the Olympics in February, the Winter Olympics. So there's going to be quite a bit of adoption of this. So the whole issue of of whether this is good for the web or not is really moot. The question is whether people are going to use it or not, and I would imagine they are going to use it.
Well,
Yep.
So yeah, people will use it if it's made available. Sure, people develop on Silverlight if it gets them somewhere it wouldn't get them otherwise. But the other thing is that the sort of the smart thing I saw about it is that they're actually supporting the web video standards that the rest of us are using too. So they're able to play back some of this stuff that before we had to use Adobe's plugins for, say, or Apple's plugins. So that is more encouraging for me, that because they can play back 264 with Silverlight, there's the potential that we could have a common video tag that would actually work across all browsers, and you can insert your technology that you want to work there and have it work.
Isn't this the Microsoft of old, though, that they just want to make sure that Windows 7 looks better and acts better and feels better than other platforms, like a Google Chrome OS or a netbook that's $300 that runs Linux, right?
Right, but that's the trade-off. The trade-off is the rest of us get a broken plugin. It's the same problem as using COM objects in the browser. Yeah, you get this sort of nice integration with Word and Office, but it only works on your Windows machine. It doesn't work on anything else. And
yeah, but
you just get a big empty plugin. So
that's such that's like
to the base.
That's like antitrust speak from the 2000.
It's not antitrust speak.
From my perspective, Google Chrome OS is a broken plugin because video doesn't work on it, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not ready yet.
I haven't played with Chrome OS yet. I've got to find a machine to stick it on.
I don't think anybody on this call has played with it.
No.
I think that would be the point. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah, we have it. I bought one of the Dell 10 inches, and how can you say we haven't played with it, Steve? We did a post on TechCrunch about
I
how
said people on this call.
Well, I'm on the call.
Okay, so have you played with it?
No. Not so much. But I have the computer with it installed, and I was going to play with it this weekend. So.
Okay, I thought you were in Paris, but this looks like your office.
Yeah, I couldn't go to Paris. I needed to wait a bit to deal with some legal issues this week. So. But check this out. I've just done something really cool. And Kevin, you'll appreciate this. So I bought one of these, this Magic Jack. Have you guys heard of this?
Yep.
So it's you plug it USB into any computer, and then you plug any real phone into it, and you've got a phone line. It has a service connected to it. I bought a super thin, like normal phone, pretty cheap, and I bought, and then I have Google Voice. And so when I'm in Paris, I'm going to point Google Voice at whatever phone number this Magic Jack has, and then plug this phone into it, and I'll be able to receive any calls that come into my cell phone. I'll receive on this phone over the internet while I'm over there. Anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
I should give you a Ribbit Mobile because you can do it on the computer without a gadget, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, but I could walk around the hotel room or the conference and with this, and it'll be fun.
So does that require Wi-Fi?
No, because it requires USB. This Magic Jack, which seems like $40, it connects via USB. So, and then it has a phone jack in it in the device.
You need backhaul. You need Wi-Fi or Ethernet or something to get you back to the net. But
Can you tilt down a little, Mike?
Hooked up to the internet. Yeah.
Can you tilt down a little?
The Ribbit soft phone does that, and it will connect through to SIP devices.
Nice.
So we can have a play with that if you like when we're there.
With that British service, I'm going to stick with the American service for now.
Hey, we're a global service.
In Mountain View.
So, Mike Arrington, what do you think about Silverlight?
I think Silverlight's actually pretty amazing. I like using it, and I'm pretty disappointed with Flash all the time. So, from a user perspective, I think Silverlight's great.
And what do you think about your author M.G. Siegler, who had an attack piece about how Bing is completely fucked because it uses Silverlight?
I didn't read that post, actually.
Well, I just summarized it for you.
I don't know. I didn't know. Does Bing use Silverlight? I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, the
Bing
stuff
Maps.
that they announced.
Yeah.
Scoble, you were there. What did they show?
They showed off a really cool map service which uses Silverlight to overlay PhotoSense on top of it. It overlays local blogs, which is really cool. It overlays tweets on top of it, and it also gives you a really immersive experience as you're walking down the street. It looks like you're walking down the street. It's really
What's wrong with that?
pretty cool.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that at all, except it doesn't work on systems like iPhones that don't have the Silverlight plugin.
Well, I'll tell you, also, Google has no intention, as far as I can tell, of installing Silverlight on Chrome OS.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Or
not,
Android. Do you think that it'll ever show up on Android?
Who cares about Android?
I thought you were the Android.
But no, this is a real problem because if they don't do it for Chrome, that's fine because Microsoft can make a plug-in and make it work anyway. But Chrome OS, those machines, you can't download any software to it. No. And so, it just won't work, and users can't do a damn thing about it. So.
And you think that's good or bad?
I think that it's bad, and I don't see a good reason from Google as to why they won't do that. Because they will do a Flash, obviously, and I also suspect that they'll build Skype in.
Well, I talked to Sergey at that thing we were at when they announced the Chrome OS thing, and he hadn't talked to his team yet, so he just gave the real answer, which is that he saw no reason why it wasn't available.
I think I had some kind of conversation, maybe off record with somebody, that they said it wasn't going to happen.
Really?
But I can't remember.
So maybe they're trying to sort of mop up after Sergey said what he thought.
The answer will be, sure, Microsoft can do that by creating their own distribution of Chrome OS and building it in. That's what they'll say. Because Chrome OS is open source. So
No, because remember, Chrome OS, users can't download any kind of binaries, any kind of software.
Yeah. No, Chrome OS, but they can take Chromium, compile it themselves, compile Silverlight in, and ship that. So Google's answer will be ship a copy of our OS with your thing in it.
But Kevin, let's be honest. Chrome OS is all about building some new weird hardware that's coming from Singapore. I mean, I've talked to some people who are building some hardware for the Chrome OS. Most consumers are not going to put Chrome OS onto a device. They're going to buy a new style, low-cost device that comes with it already built in, and it's going to be locked down. Mike's right there.
No, I'm not.
Mike's right.
I'm not disagreeing with Mike. I'm saying I'm giving you what Google's strategic answer will be, which will be Microsoft is free to modify the Chrome source code like anyone else.
I think their strategic answer is that Microsoft can go fuck themselves, frankly. They don't seem to be interested in working with Microsoft on anything at all.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, do you care about any of this stuff anymore now that you're in Afghanistan and all that other stuff?
I deeply care.
Well, can you describe how in some small way?
Well, I do have a little perspective now that I've been away from immersion in technology. And the thing that's great about technology is that there's constant argument and innovation going on. Whereas in other domains, there's lots of arguments and but not a lot of innovation.
Wow.
Unless sending more troops to Afghanistan is innovation. I don't know.
Well, that seems pretty hardcore.
You almost criticized Obama there for a second.
Yeah, he's a member of the right wing now. Right?
I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just there's some debate about whether sending troops is the right. But I think there's more debate about whether this notion that in July 2011 you start pulling out the troops. Well, how many troops? How open-ended is it? How much will it cost? How will it be paid for? Etc. But Silverlight is terrific.
It's free.
Dan, how will CBS decide what platforms? What platforms is CBS going to support in the future?
Well, we'll support any platform that is widely adopted and where it can bring some real value. And I think in the case of Silverlight, if you look at what MSNBC did with the Olympics, there's great potential for these technologies. It's kind of frustrating that we're still stuck in the same place we've been for several years, where the interfaces we have to websites are still relatively clunky compared to the potential we see in Silverlight or Flash and some other technologies or even 3D technologies. So we have a long way to go to create new experiences. And then the challenge with creating those new experiences is that it's hard for people to adapt to new experiences. So they
Isn't it
like what
hard
they've had
also for
before.
development team? I mean, if you guys had 5 developers working on something, you have to decide, do you spend those 5 developers working on HTML, which goes everywhere, or do you spend those 5 developers working on Flash or Silverlight, which go almost everywhere, but not
Well, I think,
everywhere?
Yeah, that's always a tough issue because resources aren't infinite. On the other hand, it's always fun to pick a little project, which is don't have to do the boil the ocean. Just pick one part of the site or some new thing and try it out and see what kind of reaction. Because as you're suggesting, you need experience in developing with those platforms. And once you get some really experienced people like Flash developers today, you can fairly quickly and economically get stuff done.
Yeah. Seismic is going through that right now, where they're having to split their development team up into Silverlight and Web. And there's some advantages to both, right? Loic can tell you, and we'll find out next week what his story is, but he's building a lot on Silverlight because it gives him some visual richness that the web doesn't give him. And he also is getting a couple developers.
Right, and Microsoft is willing to help.
Yeah, he's getting a couple of developers from Microsoft who are helping write code and stuff.
Yes, he's been able to port very rapidly over to Silverlight.
Yeah, but the porting, Steve, came. I talked to somebody at Microsoft. The porting came because Microsoft helped him. So
yeah, obviously.
Yeah, but so what? What does that mean?
I'm just telling you, I couldn't port.
I
don't get help.
I mean, Vic Kinotra personally, I think he wrote Google Wave, the first version of it.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. But I mean, the point is that Microsoft is going to try and get leading edge, micro messaging platforms into Windows without having to do anything, except to throw a couple of consultants their way. I'll bet you it wasn't Microsoft that did the coding. It was a consultant. It was a third-party developer.
I actually think I used to work on the evangelism team at Microsoft. I know some of those guys. They're really smart and really good developers, and they helped MySpace port from LAMP stack over to Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a project. We're using Silverlight, and there are people at Microsoft who have been helping us. Tim, what's his name?
Tim Sneath?
No. Tim Hewer and John McGrady, and there are a whole bunch of very smart people there. The point I'm trying to make here is that, and I want to get Doc Searls in on this if he's still awake.
Yeah, I keep nodding off.
Yeah. Is what's the... I think that the old arguments about proprietary versus open versus closed and all that kind of stuff is just so much crap. I just don't see why people don't understand that if something is good and if the users want to use it and it gives a better experience and there's more than one competitor in the marketplace, unlike what it was in 2000 and before, that, bad-mouthing these kinds of technologies because they're not, federated or distributed or any of these code words for open it's just nonsense.
–
The code word for open is who's paying for it and who has control of it, right?
It's not code words. It's NEA, right?
It's not just that. I mean, I don't have a problem with Silverlight or Air being proprietary. I have a problem with it not working on. Problem with one company saying there's only one way to do this, and there's nobody else who can improve on it but that one company. I'd love somebody else to come along and make Air with resizable type. Can't do it. So I've got a screen that makes all that type look extra tiny. I can't resize it.
But that's not necessarily true of what Microsoft's doing. Microsoft seems to have discovered that it's good business to be open and to
Microsoft's doing a lot of stuff that's more open than ever, and maybe they're doing that with Silverlight. I don't know.
Not so much with Silverlight, but with other bits of Microsoft, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Silverlight 4 includes an HTML rendering engine, which is about as open as you can get for integrating the rest of what's going on.
Okay, so if I want to design something let's say I've got a Linux netbook and I want to program something on that using Silverlight. Can I do it?
There's a thing called Moonlight, which is an open source clone that's a bit.
That's
behind.
correct. And
Okay.
and what
You can, but
Miguel
it's-
Diaz is doing with Moonlight is
Why
very
would you have a
interesting.
Linux netbook?
Sorry, what?
Why would you have a Linux netbook?
Hang on a second, Mike.
It's
I'm
cheap.
fighting your mic because all the plastic noises
Yeah,
are
it's these
killing us.
stupid things you can't open. I mean, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. I'm sorry, am I making a lot of noise with it? I actually need to be.
yeah.
Anyway, so.
So what were you saying? Since I had the mic down.
Why do we have a Linux netbook to begin with? Like, who would be using that?
A lot of people use a mic. I mean, I'm not the only one.
Do you know anyone that uses them? I mean, have you ever seen one?
Yeah, sure. No, I've had them. It's
And which do you use more often, that
Yeah,
or your
nobody
Mac?
uses
the Asus EEPC. Okay, there's several million of them in the world. I know that's a small number.
No, there's several million of them in the world. Most of them are running Windows XP.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
A bunch of people are running Linux on them.
Ooh,
what's?
I don't know.
I should ask you, Mike. So what's wrong with running Linux?
Nothing. It just it just doesn't really work. I mean, Chrome OS is great, which is Linux, right? So
Right, it's Linux, yeah.
It's locked down Linux, though. Really,
What does that mean, lockdown?
It
it has a great UI on it, and it's locked down. Like
It's
you said,
open
you can't
source.
put
You're
Flash on
already
it,
doing
you can't
the
put
lockdown thing.
Silverlight on it.
And
yeah,
what's
the whole
locked down
open
about
source
it?
thing is just a nice
It's
thing
open
to say
source.
about.
I can debug it. That's the difference, okay? If I find a bug in Chromium in Chrome OS, I can download the Chromium, pull the source, step through the code, find the bug, fix it, send a patch. If I find a bug in Silverlight, I have to send a bug report to Microsoft and hope one of these evangelist guys who is very cool sees that I'm high priority enough
Yeah,
to fix
well,
the bug.
when you used
That's
to
the
work at
difference.
Google, if I wanted to get YouTube to be able to convert this show onto
Yeah.
video without a 7-second time delay between the picture and the audio, I had to go through you. And when you left the company, I had to give up. There's no way to
Yeah.
get through to anybody at YouTube.
That's true. Yeah, YouTube is an
Okay,
open source.
so what's the difference
Actually, Chad
between that?
Hurley's
Chromium
Chad
YouTube.
Hurley's on Twitter.
Well, that's great. So's Comcast Cares, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to get any specific, treatment as a developer or as a producer. So
Well,
I don't know
you
why
give me
you're
a producer
why are
account,
you
so I'll
saying
help
that there's
you
a distinction between that and what Microsoft does with Silverlight. I think
We work in different places.
nonsense.
I was comparing Chrome OS to Silverlight. Those are designed to be platforms. You're comparing a service to a platform.
I'm comparing Google to Microsoft.
Yeah, but in the specific case, we were saying, is Silverlight locked up? Is Chrome OS locked up? There is a difference when something is open source because that
Well,
means anyone
if
can fix it.
if Mike is right, then Chrome OS is locked up because they're not going to let Silverlight on the platform. Whereas Silverlight interoperates perfectly well with all sorts of open technologies.
Is Chrome OS not going to let Silverlight on it?
We don't know where they are. And someone can make a Chrome OS distribution with Silverlight on it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what Sergey said, but apparently that's not what.
Yeah, but what matters is what's being shipped with PCs for the most part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you'll get into the issue of that we've seen with Android of the, well, you can't bundle the Google Apps with it thing, so that they may end up doing that game. Yeah.
yeah. Well, also you probably can't call it Chrome OS. I mean, like with Android, there's certain things you have to do to be able to call it an Android device, and I'm sure they'll do the same thing with Chrome OS.
Well, Doc, there's always been this sort of disconnect, or at least a tension between companies like IBM that have used Linux and Google and using Linux, and Sun and using Linux, and Oracle and using Linux. I mean, at some point, are we going to get past that and just start, seeing the similarities between these technologies rather than the differences?
Yeah, sure. I think we're ratcheting gradually in that direction. But in the meantime, we have these little proprietary plays, and no device lasts more than 18 months anyway, and it's going to be iterative, and we'll work it out.
So you're okay with having, a sort of a third-class experience on Linux on the Aces?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it because I don't care that all. I mean, I do care to some degree, but I mean, it's I'm taking a long view on it, I guess. You know, I would like it if if Microsoft did not insist on, like, we're never going to develop on Linux, I guess, or leave it up to somebody else. I don't know, but I mean, I expect that Microsoft's going to shift on that eventually in some way. I don't know.
Can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of what you talked about in terms of your telecom event today?
Yeah, it was called Software and Telecom. What was it? The software or something?
Telecom as software.
Telecom as software. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we had four panelists from Ribbit, Good Technologies, Skype, and Google, as in Google Voice, and the room is great. I should say, by the way, that Supernova being in these seminar rooms, which have kind of, a horseshoe-shaped audience, all behind desks, all with good connectivity, all within talking distance of everybody else. It's a much more warm and convivial and interactive and productive experience than the kind of thing you have in a hotel where there's a bunch of people in the front of the room and a big audience out there. So that it worked at that level. It worked really well. My sort of top level summary of it is that we're just starting to see what we're going to get as disruptive technologies, like all of these software guys, take more responsibility for what used to be telecom and invent all kinds of new ways of doing things with voice, and the telcos gradually comply with whatever that's going to involve. I thought we got some good answers to a lot of things. I thought we had absent answers to some. I really wanted to get a good answer from the panel on how they made money and how they wanted the telcos to make money, because the telcos aren't going away in the short run. What do they think the telcos should be doing to help them out? What I got mostly was, well, we're going to do what we do really well, and we work with everybody, and it was a little bit more kumbaya than I wanted to hear. But I do think it's all going to, it's going to change. I mean, voice is just another application. It happens to be an application that has enormous sunk infrastructure that did the same thing in the past and still does it to some degree, and does it differently, not only in different countries in the world, but in different states in the U.S., and has an enormously complicated regulatory framework that really probably ought to be completely thrown out and started over. The FCC actually issued a public notice looking for comment on exactly that. Like, how do we move from the public switch telephone network to an all IP network? That's a huge thing for the FCC to do. It's unimaginable under any prior administration. I don't know whether it's PR or whether they really are sincere in looking for that. There are a lot of telco bellhead types in the White House and close to it, enough so that some friends of mine in the industry think that it's already a captured regulatory environment. But I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question for them to put out there, and in fact, it's a necessary one. I think we need to build down an awful lot of regulation around telecommunications and build up something else that we don't understand yet, and that's really interesting shit. And we could have gone all day on it.
Yeah, don't you think that what Mike Arrington's been focusing on around Google Voice, the disruptive quality of that when it intersects with things like Android, don't you think that is going to have much more of a immediate impact than anything that the government's going to do?
I refresh me for what Mike's been saying, or maybe Mike can.
Google
Voice is amazing. I mean, that I can. I think that we're within striking distance of being able to pick up any telecom device, whether it's this or this or this, or well, I got a lot of phones here.
You got a lot of you have a lot of dark rectangles.
We're back in the QVC mic.
Here, look at that. Whatever, I can pick up any device, including Robert Scoble's if I'm standing next to him, or Steve Gillmor's, and both make and receive calls on my phone number. That my phone number is an identity, even more so than an email. And I think we're getting very close to that with what BT is doing through Ribbit and what Google Voice is doing. Like I said earlier, is that when I'm in France, my mobile phone won't work, but I will have Google Voice point to whatever cell phone I pick up there temporarily. It automatically rings to Skype because I bought a Skype in number, and it'll ring to this new phone number that I have through this Magic Jack. So I'll be very reachable, and I'll be able to make free phone calls from there as if I was, here.
Steve, it looks like we just lost the feed.
Yeah, well, we'll keep recording. We're almost done anyway. They can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm all for everything Mike just said, and I think it's a cool thing.
Right.
I am,
so my question was whether or not that things like Google Voice and what Steve Jobs has done with the iPhone are going to have a more immediate and much more palpable effect than anything that the government would do.
Yes, but they're it's kind of like is the Pacific Ocean going to have more effect than the Atlantic Ocean? They're different. They're different things. We need to unscrew the regulatory system, and at the same time we need all kinds of fun innovations like what Google and Skype and Ribbit and other companies are doing, and those are different things, and we need both. So it's not like the government deregulating telecom is in competition with innovation. It's a different thing.
Right. And just part of it is I think the point is to make sure that these things are enabled, not blocked, and that's the same concern.
Exactly.
The same as the concern about Comcast vertically integrating is, will they suddenly be able to block other people doing stuff? In the television world, just as some of the incumbent telcos have done in the phone world by stopping you using voice over IP on various devices. So the assumption is that, as Doc says, voice becomes an application that something you can just run on the top of the IP stack, take it anywhere in the world, just like Mike was saying. And the thing that will stop that is somebody who has control of that pipe explicitly blocking it and sniffing it out and making it not work. And that's the piece that where the regulations may have to come in to say that actually, no, you can't do that.
Dan Farber, you want to comment on this, and then we'll go once around the table and wrap this up.
I agree with everything that Kevin Marks has ever said.
Excellent.
Okay, Scoble?
I'm still not sold on the Silverlight thing.
Well, you mean what percentage of the internet has to be using it before you'll be sold on it?
100%.
Okay. Well, let's see. There are how many of the machines out there are Windows?
90. So you're almost there.
Okay. Thank you.
No, it's not. It's not 90 anymore. That's the point, because there are all these machines out there that are taking over the thing that aren't Windows.
Right. And
the number is changing really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I
have a dark rectangle also. See, and there's a white rectangle on that side.
The real answer is how many of my cell phones are Windows? None.
How many of your cell phones have any kind of video at all? None.
Oh, I watch video all the time on both my Droid and my iPhone. And
right now, H.264 is dominant on cell phones. Right. Microsoft showed and will release an IIS server plugin which will push Silverlight video to the iPhone.
But the whole Silverlight argument is about the maps. The maps are not video, and that's something else. And
but
that's
what Miguel Diaz is doing with Moonlight. Is he's developing a decompiler which basically just takes all of the calls that go to things that can't be used on the iPhone and converts them into something that will. I mean, we're going to get there within
Citrix
the next
showed me Windows
6
running on my iPhone too, and that's cool. But okay,
I'm not talking about Windows. I'm talking about Silverlight. Silverlight's going to be on
Silverlight
most devices within 6 months.
So Steve, if Silverlight can only be optimized through an IIS server, that's not good.
Well, the good part of it was that they were.
This is something that Adobe did with Air. They decompiled. They released it about 6 months ago. I mean, this is not Microsoft's to own. This is, there's a roadblock in terms of video on the iPhone right now, which is going through what will eventually become HTML5, hopefully before I'm dead. And all of this stuff is going to route through, so-called standards once the market's there, and the market is about to be there. So, to pin this to Silverlight is like saying that Chrome OS is some sort of strategic initiative. Neither of them are strategic. They're both going to dominate over other alternatives, and as long as there are two, my thesis is that that's just fine, thanks, and we don't have to worry about somebody coming in on a white horse to save us from ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's really HTML5 versus Silverlight.
What was that?
And that droid.
Not me, Governor.
Hey, Mike, did you pay for your own droid, or did you get a freebie?
You know what? It's a review unit, which I disclosed, but it's still a review unit. With my the MyTouch, I went and bought one because I really liked it. This one I didn't, and you know why I didn't is because the Google phone that's coming out. That's what I'm definitely gonna buy and use. So I'll probably stop using this.
This is what Google makes, right, Mike? This is not a Verizon phone or something.
Are you gonna rub that into Lance Olenoff's face for about 6 months after it comes out?
Yeah, but his definitely. But his his argument is that it didn't matter whether it came out or not. That I'm a dick either way. So whatever.
Okay, is that your last word?
It's good to see Dan Farber. Haven't seen you in a while, Dan.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys too. Visit me in New York.
I wish that you would come back here and take over CNET again. It needs you.
Yeah, it really does.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Oh, it's awful. Have you even read it recently? It's really bad.
Well, I don't know. I think it's all good. I think everything is good.
Well, you're a loss to the tech
Was,
conversation.
Much better when you were there.
Yeah, and particularly the enterprise tech conversation. I mean, you've got some good guys over there like Oliver Marks and people like that at ZDNet. But there's nobody there who knows the story when it goes back more than like 3 years.
Well, I understand that if you can go back further than 3 years, that you can mine all that rich data and bring it to the forefront and make people happy, which is what we try to do.
Oh, this is just so pathetic.
Hey, are we doing this at Le Web next week?
Yes, we are. Are you going to be there?
I'll be there.
I worry if you're supposed to have left yesterday and.
He's got plenty of time.
No. So here's what happened. So I had to stay a couple extra days. So I asked if I could change. I asked Loic and Geraldine if they could get my flight changed, and they said sure, and they changed it. But what they didn't do is change my girlfriend's flight, who was also flying at the same time as me. And so we realized that the next morning, which is day of the flight yesterday, and they'd just forgotten or whatever. And so it's like we're flying on different days. We tried to change her flight, but it was going to be like $10,000 or $6,000 or something. Yikes. So she flew yesterday alone, and I'm flying alone on Saturday. But she's there, so I'm definitely going. If I don't go, I mean, I can just imagine the conversation that I'd have to have around that. So,
well, when do you get into Paris?
Sunday morning, I think.
We get in at 7 something. So if you want to share we got a car pick us up.
Yeah, I'll ping you after this, and we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, I'll probably see you at the airport. I want to thank Kevin Marks and Doc Searls. Kevin, you're going to be there too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm.
Doc, are you going over this time?
Huh?
Doc, are you going over this time?
No, I'm not. I'll actually be in the UK, but I'm not going to go over there. I've got business in the UK, so I can't do it.
All right. Well,
that's too bad.
I'm glad that you have returned to the video version. Dan Farber, as always, appreciate you showing up.
It's always good to see my friends, even virtually.
And Robert Scoble, I'll see you there. And Mike Arrington, thanks for doing this. This is Steve Gillmor. This has been the Gillmor Gang. I want to thank everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. See you again next time. Bye-bye.